We often hear that success, whether it's your career or personal life, well, it boils down to how smart you are, right? Or maybe how good you are at a specific skill. But what if there's a whole other dimension of intelligence, one that's maybe even more crucial? It's often thought of as something you're just born with, this innate ability. But as we'll unpack today, it's actually something far more dynamic. Today, our deep dive is all about emotional intelligence. You might hear it called EQ or maybe emotional competence.
That's exactly right. Emotional intelligence, or EI, it's essentially this profound capacity to observe, recognize, and, importantly, constructively manage your own emotions. Think of it as a foundational skill. It really empowers effective communication, helps you navigate stress much better, prevents conflict, sometimes before they even bubble up, and it sharpens your problem solving, deepens your empathy.
Yeah.
You know, emotionally intelligent people, they can often instinctively recognize the emotions driving other people's behavior, whether those feelings are positive or negative, and they can adapt how they interact accordingly.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear then. We want to clarify what EI truly is, and maybe more importantly, dismantle some really common misconceptions, things you might believe that could actually be limiting your potential, and then hopefully provide a kind of clear roadmap for how you can actively cultivate this vital skill in your own life. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's maybe jump right into what we're calling the misconception minefield, because it turns out a lot of what we think we know about emotions and intelligence, well, it just doesn't quite hit the mark.
And clearing these up seems crucial if we really want to understand and harness emotional intelligence.
Absolutely, and one of the biggest myths, I hear this all the time, is the idea that emotions don't belong in business. People love saying that, don't they? It's not personal, it's just business. But actually, psychological studies show that most entrepreneurial decisions are, at their core, really emotion-driven. So the real key isn't to somehow remove emotions. I mean, that's impossible, right? It's about recognizing them and skillfully managing them. That's what's truly crucial. For everything from, say, negotiating deals to building strong relationships with colleagues,
Clients, and even just finding genuine enjoyment in your day-to-day work.
That's fascinating. It really challenges that whole idea of the, purely rational decision maker we often picture.
Yeah, that's another major misconception. While our bodies certainly respond to how we handle emotions, you feel stress physically, right? They don't actually dictate them. Emotionally intelligent people, they understand this distinction. They take responsibility for their emotional responses. They learn to proactively manage them rather than just, reacting passively.
Okay, so it's about agency then, not just pure reaction.
Exactly.
And what about dealing with, let's say, difficult people? There's this common belief that emotionally intelligent people just
Don't engage in negative or toxic dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Is that actually true? Do they just sort of avoid anyone challenging?
No, not at all, really. I mean, while you might get advice to... Right. It often is. High EQ individuals don't necessarily physically avoid them. Instead, they learn to distance themselves emotionally. They practice acceptance, understanding that maybe past situations or someone's own wounds might be driving their behavior. And they use specific techniques. Things like setting clear boundaries, showing genuine empathy even when it's hard, and always trying to find perhaps a positive angle or a constructive way forward, even in a negative situation.
So they're not avoiding the difficult interaction. They're just managing it more skillfully,
Right.
like emotional Aikido or something.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
This brings up another interesting point. Are emotionally intelligent people just inherently confident? Do they never seek acceptance or approval from others?
Ugh, that's another myth. Even people with really high EQ, they continuously work on their confidence just like anyone else. It's an ongoing process. They recognize that social conditioning, society, family, it can implant beliefs and thoughts that aren't truly their own. So when they find themselves seeking that external validation, they use these sort of specialized toolkits they've developed over time, things to manage what some people call their monkey minds, that chattering internal critic. They'll actually summarize their thinking patterns, look at them
Objectively, see if those thoughts are actually useful, and then deliberately calm themselves down.
Oh, the monkey mind. So relatable. You mentioned control and balance earlier. This
Right, and that's absolutely not true. It's a very, very common misunderstanding. In fact, being highly emotional, like outwardly volatile, often indicates difficulty in managing reactions, which, let's be honest, tends to create more drama rather than actual solutions in difficult situations. High EQ involves acknowledging emotions, definitely allowing them to be felt fully. It's not about suppression. But then it's about balancing those reactions and controlling impulses. They might even practice techniques like mental distancing to kind of step back from intense emotional triggers in tough moments. Helps them regain perspective. It's about mastery, really, not suppression.
That really reframes things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of common associations, another idea is that high EQ people are just naturally charismatic. Is that always the case?
Not necessarily. I mean, they are certainly often easy to be around, and that's because they tend to communicate well, they recognize their own feelings, and they genuinely try to empathize with others' perspectives. They make people feel heard and understood, which is huge.
Sure.
But that doesn't automatically translate into charisma in the sort of conventional sense. Charisma is really a different quality altogether, often linked more to influence, personal magnetism. It's not quite the same as emotional processing skill.
Okay, so empathy is clearly a big part of this picture, but you mentioned earlier that EI is actually more than just being empathetic. What's the deeper layer there?
Exactly. While empathy is absolutely a core component, EI goes much further. It's not just identifying, for example, that someone is stressed out.
It's knowing how to use that knowledge, that understanding to constructively help the situation, rather than maybe making it worse or just offering sympathy without any...
Born with emotional intelligence or not?
Ah, yes. This is a major, major misconception. Let's be really clear. Emotional intelligence is not innate. Nobody is born emotionally intelligent like they're born with blue eyes. It's something that's developed. It comes through channeling emotions effectively, through self-motivation, deep self-awareness, and actively working on specific behaviors and traits. Developing EI takes time, it takes practice, it takes patience. And look, even highly emotionally intelligent people often seek assistance, like coaching, to continue their growth, because it really is like a muscle. You have to continually train it.
Wow. That's a huge takeaway right there. The fact that it's something we can learn and grow. That's incredibly empowering, isn't it?
It really is.
Okay. And finally, there's this belief that people with high IQ also have a high EQ. Do those two always go hand in hand?
Well, they can certainly go hand in hand, but a high IQ doesn't automatically guarantee a high EQ. Not at all. Think about it. IQ is often developed and measured through formal education, academic pursuits, right? But EQ requires specific intentional development in entirely different areas. Self-awareness, regulation, empathy. You might have an extremely high IQ from years of schooling, be brilliant academically, but your emotional intelligence might still need dedicated work. They're both forms of intelligence.
Sure, but they're developed through very different processes.
It's so clear how these common beliefs, these myths, can actually hold us back from truly understanding and, harnessing our emotional potential.
Yes, Goldman's model is incredibly insightful. It really changed the conversation around intelligence, moving beyond just IQ. It breaks emotional intelligence down into 5 key components or pillars. And what's particularly fascinating here, and maybe a bit surprising, is that research indicates EI can be twice as important as IQ and technical skills for outstanding performance, especially, interestingly, at higher levels of leadership.
Why is this important? Wow.
Yeah, so let's explore these 5 pillars.
Okay, let's start with the absolute foundation.
Self-awareness. How do we really define that? Maybe beyond just knowing yourself.
Right. Self-awareness is having a deep, almost clinical understanding